Let's do an intro, I guess. Welcome everyone to Paxtier. It's me, Peter from Paxtier. Today we're going to be doing a new intro, a new type of bulletin session where we're going to talk about a couple of news updates.
Exciting, thrilling, brand new development from Paxtier.
Very novel, untested.
Cutting edge, actually.
Yeah.
Experimental.
And we're going to run through a few themes. Firstly, news updates in the space. Secondly, I'll introduce you to this young man over here before segueing into the Seaweed Ideathon. If we're not, we might start with that, which is a new type of competition we launched, and we have some interesting updates on that front.
We do.
So
let's start there.
Welcome everyone, welcome. This is Reiss Jones. Reiss, would you like to give a little intro?
Yeah, I'm Reiss. I am 24. I basically run a company called Macro Supplies, where we basically develop seaweed harvesting machinery that's cheap, affordable, and reliable for farmers. First one's called Macro Autofarmer, has a 10-year guarantee, harvests at 4.5 wet tons, costs £30,000. So that's the main thing I do. And then the second thing I do is I run something called the Seaweed Gang, which is an all-online, global, and probably the most engaged seaweed community out there in the world. It's got 280 members on it. Peter is also a member, so if you're not a member, you should definitely join. And an admin. And an admin. Yeah, really, you were there from the beginning, weren't you?
Yeah, I left my mark. I'm within the conversation, adding links to harass everyone now and again. It really is a great solution to something that we've had trouble with in the seaweed space, which is cross-border collaboration, conversation, and you always need someone driving those types of community channels, and you do a great job with that because I know how hard it is from first-hand experience.
Yeah, you're right. It was we needed that extra transparency, and it's something that we're still lacking, to be honest. We don't have enough people from Southeast Asia on the Seaweed Gang, and that's really what the West needs to be learning from, right? Because that's where all of the seaweed development has been for the past, 100 years or whatever.
Now, we are talking about Macro Farmer and Macro Supplies, sorry.
Yeah.
Give us a little update while we're on the topic. Give us a little update on the improvements in terms of production capacity or automation capacity. What kind of improvements does it offer farmers versus what they're currently working on? Because we know in terms of price, cultivation is super high.
Right, exactly.
So tell us more about
that. 64% of the cost comes from labour, and then 80% of that goes to harvesting, we think. There's such a poor amount of data out there that we can't say with 100% certainty, but we think those are the numbers. It really depends on the farm in terms of productivity benefits. You've got, it depends on species, depends on the size of the farm, depends on location as well, right? What is the average wage that you're paying people in that given region? Because, maybe in Canada it's more expensive than in, say, the UK, right? Where wages are, often a lot lower. So really, what we have is a calculator, and we like to give, an idea of the benefits or an estimation of the benefits through our online calculator. So you can check that out on our website. But
you have a calculator on your website.
It's on our website, so you can interact with it. But yeah, I think if I was to give kind of ballpark idea, if you're farming sugar kelp in the US and it's a 1 hectare farm, it's going to save you, I believe, it's about $50,000 a year. So that means you're kind of getting this whole machine paid back within 1 year, and it has a 10-year lifetime. Right,
and then in terms of next steps for you guys, because you've had a bit of feedback from investors and from farmers too. So what's next for you guys?
So we had some feedback from farmers. Most of them really liked the products. There was one that wasn't super keen on it because of tie ties. So it's not compatible with tie ties. If you look at our machine, it's basically it pulls your long line through a radial blade. It's that radial blade that's on the external chassis of the machine that actually cuts the seaweed. So most of it doesn't go inside. But that radial blade is not compatible with tie ties that you see with some eucalyptoid farming over in Indonesia. It's not necessary because actually a lot of farmers do it without those tie ties, so we would just recommend farmers who do use tie ties not to use them. when using our machine. Otherwise, it's compatible with any rope between 5mm to 70 millimeters. And then as it pulls that rope through, it takes, first of all, the main portion of the crop by cutting up the holdfast, and then it shears off with a secondary blade your holdfast and your seed string from your previous deployment into a separate pile. So that's how it works. And so as part of that, it's not the best at dealing with knots in the long line. So if you've tied them together, so that's something we'd want to improve for version 2.0. But otherwise, most customers have been pretty excited about it, with the exception of the fact that we don't have a video demonstration of this on someone's farm.
So, investors, if you're watching this, I think it's a really good opportunity to catch up with Reiss and see what he's up to, and there's obviously lots of room for improving the cultivation side of seaweed and the seaweed industry, and you guys offer definitely one of the solutions that folks talk about all the time, automating, improving the harvesting process. So that was Macro Supplies, everyone. Stay tuned for more updates on that front, that these guys are looking for fundraising, but also new collaborators and new opportunities to test their kit. So get in touch with Reiss, get in touch with me if you want to find out more. And we can just segue into the Seaweed Ideathon, which is our number 2 update for today, which was a great success. We launched the Seaweed Ideathon about a month ago, and basically it had various reasons for launching, but certainly from my side of things, there's not enough innovation happening upstream in terms of the supply chain, so the production, the processing, the harvesting, the seeding, and we wanted to see a little bit more innovation and collaboration upstream, and so we launched a Seaweed Ideathon. Did you want to just dive into that a little bit more detail?
Yeah, sure.
A little bit more insight?
We did it a little bit differently. It's kind of like a hackathon. So if you've been to a hackathon, it's basically like a weekend long event, usually, just a day, and you just sit down with a random team that you just meet and you build something. Usually it's like software based, right? But we obviously can't build something in just over a weekend for the upstream seaweed industry. So what we've got to focus on instead is ideas, right? And we're trying to find really good ones. So we assemble people into teams based on their specializations, right? We've got some business people, mix them in with academics, and mix them in with like maybe a few students here and there as well. I think we might have even had a couple of creatives. And then obviously more engineering focused people too. And then they would basically pick a problem statement that we prepared, right, which was processing, basically like a cheaper, more low energy intensive, a less energy intensive way of doing processing that's not solar drying. And then
particularly the stabilization side of things and stabilizing seaweed, right?
Exactly. Trying to find alternative ways. Had some really interesting ideas proper for that. And then we also had a problem statement around NIMBYism, because obviously there's a lot of NIMBYism when it comes to
not in my backyard ism.
Yes. Worth explaining.
Which is a big issue, right? It's an issue, and I think there are solutions for it, but basically there's a social acceptance issue in the West, farming seaweed in the nearshore environment, where folks don't really want to see a bunch of seaweed farms generally, and they're worried about the scale-up problem. There is hope, but the UK is a little bit slower at the moment, and we have our own issues with busy marine environments, very busy marine environments, and so that's where the discussion around offshore cultivation comes more into the fore. But we can get into that another time, because we do have to move on to the next point, which is the final point of the Seaweed Ideathon, which was to do with domestication of breeding of seaweed for high productivity seaweed. Basically, we wanted to talk about genetic improvements, selective breeding, an area for big innovation in this space. We are seeing the effects of climate change on crops around the world, particularly in the Philippines and Indonesia. And so the final problem area was that, and we offered that as an option to start proposing a solution. And we saw a great team come to the fore in that area, which actually won the competitions. That was Team 3. I don't think we have a name for them, but we should have had a name for them coming into this. But this was a team of 4 guys from South America and the States. I don't know if we can maybe leave their names in after this, but it's Raul, José, Patrick, and Rodrigo. And we were really impressed with how these guys took to the challenge, and just their group chat popped off within a few seconds.
Sure. It was buzzing.
And it was just, and then when we spoke to them after, we noticed how much of a pain point this had been. We learned loads about the tons of seaweed being farmed in Brazil and Venezuela, which has a huge potential actually for some of these tropical seaweeds.
And the way they got those strains in the first place, right? They imported it over from the Philippines.
Yeah.
And then it got past Venezuela, which then got past to Brazil, something like that.
And so these guys presented a domestication program that they would like to incorporate or introduce to at least Brazil and South America, but has possibilities for the whole of the tropical seaweed sector, and was a great roadmap for it was more of a project as opposed to a startup idea. But immediately we saw the potential of introducing this, and if it's not already happening, because there's a few breeding operations happening around the world, but this one was quite comprehensive.
Because it's not just a breeding operation, right? Breeding is slow. You're dealing with like generation times in tropical seaweeds of around 45 days. It took like millennia to do selective breeding with terrestrial plants. So we need something a lot faster, and these guys had a few ideas with that. Directed evolution, genetic engineering, which can be very controversial, but isn't without precedent. There's I think it's a form of Atlantic salmon in the States that got authorized, a genetically modified version of it. That got authorized for aquaculture farming over there. So it wouldn't be the first genetically modified crop to be used in water. So there is some precedent for that, but all of these different technologies, including DNA sequencing as well, could help generate much faster seaweed species and strains.
So they were the winning team, but there were so many other good teams, and we were really happy that folks took the time, engaged on the weekend, to work on a project together. Some really superb people coming together, offering solutions with offshore permaculture for social licensing issues, and there were solutions to do with cheap, effective social licensing handbooks for the social licensing problem. We saw stabilization solutions in terms of vacuum drying, which was interesting, definitely.
Super interesting.
A very interesting solution on that front. And also another solution in terms of just optimizing offtake agreements, and then bio-refining, a sort of cascade biorefinery solution, which and then reusing the heat generated from fermentation. There's a quite circular solution there in that front. There were a lot of other solutions that we loved, but the winner were these guys, and we recommend getting in touch with them if you want to learn a little bit more. Final point, I think, was the final point today was about news. I mean, anything you've seen in the news the last few days is of interest. I think there's a lot of, from my end, there's a lot of Asparagopsis news happening at the moment.
You sent me a few links.
Asparagopsis is kind of, the methane reduction supplements are really in the news last few weeks. CH4 Global moving ahead with their Eco Park, first commercial sales, very exciting for them. Australia is the breeding ground, I think, for innovation in that area.
Do we know the volume of those commercial sales?
I don't think that's.
They're releasing that.
I don't think that's public, but it might be. And Steve, if you see this, correct me if I'm wrong. We would love to learn a little bit more there. But there's also some innovation happening in Canada. So Canada's just introduced, or at least accepted, some new neutral, one of the other alternatives for antimethanotropics. So antimethanogenics, and or 3-NOP, I think, was the other alternative that's just been allowed, or at least approved in Canada. But commercial scale-up's going to take a bit longer, and that sort of sets the groundwork for antimethanogenics with seaweeds, with natural additives. But then also the other news is that I think the States have made some new sort of FDA-type announcements on Asparagopsis, so lots of exciting news in that area, and definitely as a mid-range product category, still one of the more exciting spaces for seaweed because of the potential, the need, the demand. The main issue is obviously the price, I think, and the scale.
One thing that domestication can help with as well, if you can increase it, is it bromoform?
Yeah, bromoform is the active ingredient.
If you can increase that active ingredient concentration through, directed evolution or something, that'd be great.
Yeah, I reckon there's definitely some selective breeding improvements, but in terms of more like proper directed evolution and engineering.
Yeah, just getting this fast generation times.
Yeah. Then the other topic that's come up last week was the seaweed sinking. And,
that was a big topic. I don't know much about this, so I'll let you talk about it.
I think it's something I saw in preprint about 6 months ago. I think 6 months ago, a while ago. So it wasn't a big news. It's been. I think I've read it before, and so when it was in preprint, it was I felt a little bit more relevant. And so 6 months ago, people were maybe still discussing this a little bit more. There are a few teams looking at seaweed sinking around the world, like Seafields, and I'm running tired of moved a bit away from seaweed.
Yeah, they're doing like wood chip, right?
Yeah, they're doing wood chip or monitoring more than anything, just MRV of the carbon cycle in the ocean.
It's a hard pivot.
It was I think it was part of their plan.
Actually, and metaphorically.
And Symbrosia had some great news as well. I think there was an edited article coming out not long ago about the latest updates on introducing an insetting program for methane reduction supplements. So this would be the farmers getting paid for a carbon credit. So this is all part of the carbon credit aspect of Asparagopsis and methane reduction, which is another way of essentially subsidising the cost of production or introducing seaweed supplements into your supply chain. And it's moving along really well, and I think we a couple of years ago made a few predictions on that, and stuff seems to be coming through. So the case for Asparagopsis as a solution is very strong. I know that folks have questions around efficacy in large scale operations, also where a vaccine might be better than a supplement because you don't have to you don't have to feed it like regularly. But it has its benefits over the synthetics or the vaccines, and in general this market is massive. I mean, we've seen the effects of consumer fickleness or consumer trends away from whole protein and maybe a little bit more return to meat eating in the news anyway. Old proteins have come under a lot of fire last couple of months, and so these guys are jumping on that and as a case for meat eating again. And if we continue to eat meat in the next few years, which we will, the case for Asparagopsis is still pretty strong.
Yeah, that's a great point actually. That's a great point. We're seeing that's been a while since I checked, but we're seeing a falling rate of growth I think in the alternative protein space. So great area that Seaweed can kind of support in if we can resolve the supply side issues.
Mm-hmm. And that's it. The final thing was that Seaweed actually got mentioned in Morning Brew, which is a daily newsletter that's got a couple million subscribers. So
cool.
Every time that Seaweed's in the news, we will cover it. But Morning Brew, if you want to reach out to us, I think we can definitely give you a little bit more insight into seaweed around the world. Thank you for giving a shout out to the seaweed space. We need more exposure, we need more conversations, and we need more investments.
Because I know I've been a bit of a downer this whole time, this whole conversation. But the truth is, seaweed does have huge potential, right? It's basically crude oil you can eat, and I mean that in a positive way.
Depends, I guess, on what kind of seaweed you're farming, but yeah.
Well, we're talking about the industry as a whole.
Yeah, okay.
You can literally make crude oil out of it if you wanted to. I mean, it's kind of too expensive.
Crude oil you can eat.
Yeah, but you can also eat it, and you can also turn it into bioplastics
and pharmaceuticals,
nutraceuticals, textiles, paper. It's
And if you really don't care about price, building materials. Yeah.
Oh yeah. What about the saga blocks?
Yeah, that's fantastic. Using waste as a we can get into that, but.
Yeah. But my point is that we can make all of these different things. The problem is the cost of producing all these is way too high because the cost of seaweed is too high in most of those markets. And so the way that we do that is we boost labour productivity and reduce seaweed production costs that way. Hopefully you'll see us on a farm very soon.
Yeah, well, that's the next episode. I hope you'll be on a farm.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, we'll be on the farm and we'll be helping the seaweed industry grow from there.
Yeah, thanks very much for your time today, guys. That's the end of the podcast or the bulletin. A bit longer than expected, but thanks so much for your time.
Macro-supplies.com, don't forget to go on there.
Seaweed Gang, WhatsApp group, we'll add that in the links. Definitely join that. That's where we all hang out to discuss and bitch about and gossip about the seaweed space.
Absolutely.
And then Paxtier, you guys know where to find it, so make sure to like, subscribe, and find it wherever you listen to your favourite podcast episodes. Thanks for your time today, Reiss. Cheers.
Thanks.
Take it easy. See
Bye-bye.
you soon. Bye.
Bye.